Welcome to the Dan Casper Show podcast, your chance to catch the full show anytime, anywhere. If you missed it live on the radio, no worries. We've got you covered with all the sports talk, opinions, interviews, and conversations from the show. From the Packers to the Brewers to the biggest stories in sports and around Wisconsin, it's all right here. This is the Dan Casper Show podcast. Third quarter kicking off right now on this Tuesday morning, the final day of March. Thanks for hanging out with us, no matter where you're tuning in from or how you're tuning in this morning. We've got Badger Chat coming up in about, let's say, 10, 15 minutes or so. RJ Cardinal, lots to catch up on. Badger women's basketball team, their WBIT tournament run ended yesterday with a loss to Columbia in the semis. We've got Badger men's hockey Frozen Four matchup with North Dakota coming up on Thursday. Even a little Badger football spring practice. So RJ will be joining us here in just a little bit. It is a Toyson Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what is grinding your gears? What is grinding your gears? Get it off your chest, okay? Send it on over. It is also a Sports Confession Tuesday. So what do you need to confess? If you gotta confess your sins from a sports-related thing. We're all about making Tuesdays a feel-better Tuesday. Also taking your I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Best ones I'll read up on the air. Nick says 3-0 against the Cubs. Sorry, Josh. Is that your prediction for Brandon Woodruff? Here's the thing, Nick. Josh probably ain't even listening. You know what I mean? Josh ain't even listening, probably. He's probably, like, busy working or something. So, all right. By the way, speaking of... we were talking a little Packers in the last hour, too, because Matt LaFleur chatted with the media, Goody and Ed Policy at the owners' meetings and such. Maybe a lot to do about nothing, but it looked like Jair Alexander posted a photo from Green Bay yesterday. Yeah, honestly, it's probably a lot to do about nothing. I hate cryptic stuff, and it wasn't like of Lambeau Field or anything like that. It was just a part of Green Bay. So again, it probably has a lot to do with nothing. I mean, he spent how many years there living there and playing for them. And obviously, you know, Goody's in Phoenix. Matt LaFleur's in Phoenix. Ed Policy's in Phoenix. So, and Philadelphia still holds his rights. So I know some people are saying, ooh, return to Green Bay and such. I wouldn't. No, I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case. So, but okay, let's say Jair's healthy, mentally, physically, and he's released, or maybe do you try? I don't know. Would you welcome back Jair in Green Bay? Maybe at that cornerback position, you'd take all the help that you can get at this point in time. So, but yeah, I did see that somebody had mentioned. If I'd seen, I did see that on his Instagram. That he posted a picture of him in Green Bay. So, but I don't. If you're getting your hopes up for a reunion, I wouldn't at this point in time. So, since we were talking some Brewers, he's a former Brewer, but let's give him a little bit of a tip of the cap. Remember Joey Wiemer, outfielder Joey Wiemer? Dude's got a cannon. He's with the Nationals right now, but he has tied Carlos Delgado's record by reaching base safely in his first 10 plate appearances of an MLB season. And his first series was against the Cubbies, too. So Joey Wiemer getting it done right now with the Nationals. Shout out Joey Wiemer. Shout out Joey Wiemer. So, but, yeah, I saw that tying the record with Carlos Delgado. There's a name you probably haven't heard in a while. Holy moly. By the way, too, if you are into Hard Knocks, a little bit different. So they're doing things a little bit different. They're actually going to training camp with the Seahawks this year. So usually you find a team that didn't make the playoffs, doesn't have a coaching change. You know, it's similar to that, but a little bit different now. They're going to the champs, and I think. Let me see if I can bring it up. because they're doing something with the Patriots, I felt like in 2027 as well. I could be wrong. I'll have to double check that. But yeah, the NFL just announced it. So, all right, going to the champs, going to training camp with the champs. Maybe that's the new direction they go, because I think it would just kept getting harder and harder to find something different. Maybe they just stick with Super Bowl champs. Maybe, who knows? But yeah, I do like Hard Knocks. It depends if I'm subscribing to HBO at the time or not. So I don't know. It's interesting at times, but all right. Let's catch up on a few messages on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. A lot more eights in terms of the surprise or in terms of how surprised you were with Cooper Pratt getting a new deal from the Brewers and locking him up. So I'd say that's probably where the average number is at that point. And honestly, that's probably where I would rank myself too. You know, is it a surprise that the Brewers would do a deal like this? No. I don't think it is. But is it a surprise that it went to Cooper Pratt? Yeah, I think that's fair. Because of the top four prospects, it felt like Cooper Pratt was probably the odd man out and probably going to be kind of trade bait. Nope, that's not the case. I do think it's a little bit of a risk to take, and I don't think this is the whole reason why they did this, but, you know, we mentioned the first hour, a source told Adam McCulvey from Brewers.com that, you know, they're hoping with this contract now that he can maybe stop pressuring himself or maybe stop thinking about it or just kind of relax a little bit, and then we'll see an improvement from his hitting, that he can really focus on, you know, getting better working in the cage and that. Similar, they said, to Jackson Chourio, you know, it takes a little bit of that pressure off, and now he can just go out there and play. I get that. It's still a risk, and I understand that. I think, you know, not to be all glass half empty approach here, but I think the other risk to that is, okay, what if he doesn't continue to get better in the cage? What if he doesn't continue to get better offensively? Then does that pressure start to build again? Where it's like, man, I got to get going. I've got this contract. They're counting on me, and it's still not performing well enough. Do you kind of push yourself? Do you put a little bit more pressure on yourself to make the big league club? You know, there's always pressure. There's always going to be a pressure. You can find different ways. You can manufacture it. You can put different types of pressure on you. So right now, maybe it's a short-term relief. Like, okay, hey, I got a contract. I'm locked up for a while. I ain't going anywhere. I know my situation. I ain't going anywhere. But what if it doesn't start to translate from the offensive side? What if he doesn't start to produce offensively? And the longer he waits to get to the big league club, does it start to creep in like, when am I going to get there? What am I doing wrong that I'm not there yet? Or is that more from an outside? Because I feel like, too, if, let's say, you know, for the longest, let's say we go throughout this whole season and we don't see Cooper Pratt at the major league level. Or we get halfway through the season, we don't see Cooper Pratt at the major league level, especially if, like, a guy of Joey Ortiz is not producing. Then there's going to be like, when's Cooper coming? He's getting paid. When's he coming up? When's he coming up? You know, because when Jackson Chourio signed that deal, he didn't play at AAA, and there was and I know the Brewers didn't guarantee it that he was going to be on the opening day roster, but a lot of fans' perspective or thoughts at that time was, oh, he's getting paid that money. He should be on the opening day roster. So I'm sure there's probably some fans saying, okay, you got a deal, long-term deal, you better be on the opening day roster, or you better be on the major league roster here coming up soon. There's going to be some of that. But he's got all of the defensive traits to be a major league. Everybody says he's got major league level defense. There's no concerns about that. No qualms about that. It's just the offensive side of things that is a little bit up in the air at this point. We got plenty more Brewers chat to get to, though. So we're going to switch gears here a little bit and talk some Badgers with our guy, Mr. R.J. Cardinal. He's coming up after these quick words. Hey, sometimes accidents happen, but getting your vehicle back to normal doesn't have to be stressful. At Superior Auto Body, they specialize in getting your vehicle looking right again after dents, dings, or collisions. And the best part? Hey, they handle that insurance process for you, working directly with your provider to make things simple and hassle-free. No runaround, no confusion, just quality work and a team that's got your back every step of the way. Get your vehicle back on the road with confidence. Superior Auto Body in Eau Claire, where the job gets done right, and our official partners for Backyard Dreams. Switching gears here a little bit and talking all things Badgers with our guy, Mr. R.J. Cardinal. Good morning, RJ. How you doing, bud?
Good morning. Doing pretty good. How about you?
You know, not bad, man. Not bad. Let's lead off talking some hoops. So the Badger women's basketball team, their WBIT run ended yesterday in the semifinals to Columbia and such. And I know we had some, fans kind of poo-poo. It's the WBIT. It's not the NCAA and that sort of thing. But how, in your opinion, or what would you say to those fans? Like, why is this still beneficial for this program to make that run, to still be playing this deep into the season?
Well, just from where they were or have been, you're coming off of a few seasons where women quit the team based on alleged mental and physical abuse by a head coach, one who couldn't make grounds within the state, one who couldn't put together a culture of winning that was supposed to come with it. Sure, they had a bit of a rough stretch down the end of the season there, going into the Big Ten tournament and into the postseason. But I think most of the teams they ended up losing to in the latter half of their season were in the NCAA tournament. The Big Ten is one of the better conferences for women's basketball. And yeah, some of those teams made some runs. UCLA is in the Final Four for the women. Michigan lost to Texas in the Elite Eight. So, like, some of these programs are pretty good. And you saw Wisconsin upsetting some teams with winning records. A couple of Ivy League schools in there, losing to Columbia, but beating Harvard, who said they got jobbed, which I find hilarious. But it said Wisconsin was getting a lot of calls, but what are you going to do? You're at the home gym of somebody else in a conference that plays probably a different style of basketball, and it got reffed a certain way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to be at least somewhat excited from seeing a run to the WBIT semifinals from a team now. You don't know in this day and age who's coming back outside of, seniors being done. You don't know who's going to be on this roster next year, at least from the looks of it, based on what the results were this year. Coach Pennington brought in some good talent and was able to at least put together 13 wins on the season. I think that's prior to the tournament run, so maybe 16 and 17 on the year. I don't know the last time Wisconsin's been that close to 500. I wish I could tell you I pay more attention to women's basketball, but I really don't. So it's just good to see another program at least being able to make a postseason tournament. It's no different than when Wisconsin maybe NIT there and went on a little bit of a run, and people were upset about that. But that Wisconsin team got to play more games and put together something on paper and on film that can help go into the following season. So hopefully with the newfound success they put together this past season, that can help roll over into next season, and hopefully, aim for a winning record, and just a couple more wins in the Big Ten, and you might get there. So it's something. It's almost like football. Making a bowl game is good, no matter what bowl game it is. Even if you're not going for the national championship in the playoff, like, making a bowl game is good for a program, no matter what the outside thinks. It allows you another month's worth of practice. It allows you more team exposure as a coach, because quite frankly, outside of exit interviews, if you don't make a postseason in any sport, you're pretty much done coaching until, like, if you have a open time like spring football or whenever they allow coaching contact for the other sports, you are done coaching essentially, and the weight training staff takes over as their main point of contact. So it is something that will always be good to be able to make a postseason.
So kind of with that, though, too, after this, do you feel more optimism surrounding this program now in the near future?
I mean, you got to tread a little lightly just because of history, But, I mean, based on some of the wins they had this season, they weren't happening previously. So you got to like the step you saw this year, but still tread lightly, because when success has come to the women's basketball program, it leaves as quickly as it shows up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. I agree. So switch it over to men's hockey, the Frozen Four. So the team able to get that OT victory against Michigan State. They're going to be in action here in just a couple days, going up against North Dakota and such. But kind of going back to that Michigan State game, RJ, I mean, that was an awesome game to begin with. I mean, to come from behind and then getting it done in overtime and such. But what did you see from this team that maybe you're like, hey, maybe this is a team that can get to the national championship now?
Well, they do actually have a week and a half off here, because basketball takes center stage, mm-hmm. and then they play the 9th and 11th is the Frozen Four. So, I mean, it's best to do that rather than get lost in the NCAA basketball national championship coming up here.
Right.
So, I mean, the whole weekend, I like, we were kind of talking, I liked where Wisconsin landed. They have beaten Michigan State before when they were fully healthy, and swept them on the road when they were fully healthy. They're not fully healthy yet, but they're getting there. They've been without two of their top defensemen. I think one might be back for the Frozen Four. They had been in a stretch throughout the season with their two top centers were gone, so they were not the greatest up the middle. People are coming back, and we're seeing a Wisconsin team that looks more poised and composed than we saw in the middle of January and early February. But, after they went on that 0-6 run, they finished the season 8-3. They're getting back to what we were seeing at the beginning of the season. And both the way they beat Dartmouth and then Michigan State, just a poised team that really wasn't getting down on itself and putting pucks on the net. That game against Dartmouth could have been 5-1 without empty netters, because the amount of times they hit the post or the crossbar was just ridiculous. And I guess I found out, I didn't know this, shots hitting the crossbar is not a shot on goal, because the goalie doesn't need to play it, so it's not counted as a shot on goal.
Okay.
Yeah, never knew that. But you watched that game, that easily could have been a lot worse than 5-1. But Wisconsin gets into that third period, really put it up against Dartmouth in that game, and then scored 2 empty netters. So that was awesome to see. And then you bounce back, take the lead against Michigan State, who, all intents and purposes has been one of the top teams in the country throughout the year. And go down to them 3-1, score 2 goals. I think it was 34 seconds apart in the third period to tie. And 24 seconds in, Ben Dexheimer, the captain, throws one from the blue line back in, and Augustine, screened by his own players, couldn't see the puck, and it just went right over his shoulder into the back of the net. It was awesome to see. It was something like we had talked about, this being a team, especially early in the season, and I guess later in the season, because I think as we talked, we said their resume is pretty darn good. It'd be hard to leave them out. But seeing this team be in the NCAAs and then make their first Frozen Four since 2010, when they finished second to BC. Hopefully, you can get back to that national championship game. And it's just one of those, make it look like 2006 when both the men's and women's won national championships, replay it 20 years later, hopefully.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. So we got that coming up. We'll dive into it a little bit more when we get closer to it next week and such. But we got spring football going on. And I saw Colton Bartholomew's latest piece, and he kind of talked about inconsistent is the only word that talks about the Badger quarterbacks so far this spring. What are some of the stuff that you have heard or read or maybe saw or whatever regarding this football team in spring practice so far?
The good thing is, I guess, spring ball doesn't count for anything official. So having the inconsistency now, you're having a couple of those quarterbacks who are, throwing to these receivers and tight ends for the very first time. You have almost 40 guys that are brand new this spring. So really, it's fine with me. You can be as inconsistent as you want right now. Then you have a whole spring. You have your whole 7-on-7s in the summer for team activities that are led by the players themselves to work on timing and all that kind of stuff, and then be looking like game ready once we get to fall camp in let's see, we're not until September this year, so August. Don't have to worry about starting in July. That'll be 2027 when we play in Ireland late August of 2027. Yeah, I don't read too much into spring ball right now, because on a given day, the defense can look like it's all world, and the offense can look like they just don't know even how to snap a ball, and then it can flip a switch the next practice. So it's really a thing about implementing stuff with a brand new front, like a brand new front everything. Mm-hmm. So both sides of the ball are really just trying to work on stuff and things that they think will be able to work as they move on, but you're also going up against your own offense, your own defense. So it's not necessarily something that you're even in season when you're doing a scout team and mimicking a certain opponent. You don't really ever have to plan when you're Wisconsin to play Wisconsin. So that could be some of it too, especially when you start knowing each other's playbook. And at some point, that always tips in the favor of the offense, especially when the defense isn't allowed to hit people. So yeah, I've heard the same thing too about inconsistency, but the good news, like I said, the good news is it doesn't really affect the bottom line now. But if we still are talking about this come August, late August, then I'll start to panic.
Mm-hmm, right. Going back to basketball here quick on the men's side, I know the transfer portal doesn't open up until early part of next week. I believe it's the 7th, so a week from today, I believe it is. But Badgers-wise, I mean, we've heard a couple of names already. Jack Robinson and Ricardo Greppi are entering the transfer portal and such. Are those the only two that you've heard about too? I mean, I think there's some people kind of wondering about, is John Blackwell coming back and such, but that's still kind of early in the process. What are you hearing when it comes to some of the Badger men's basketball talk down in Madison?
Well, those are the only two I have heard of as well. And I guess the explanation for Greppi was he was a very late addition after one of the foreign players wasn't able to get into school at Wisconsin, and they needed to fill a roster spot and found him. So I don't ever remember him playing. And Jack, I guess his best thing he did this year was he's the one who took over the microphone on the social media, interviewing people during the Big Ten and the NCAA tournament. So, he didn't get much playing time either. Like in this day and age, when you can do that and you're not getting the playing time here, go hopefully find your playing time and be great where you can be great. It's not like those are some two big losses there, but I think a lot of people around here anyway are just operating under the assumption John Blackwell will be gone, solely based on his interview after the NCAA tournament came to an end. Talking about a mental struggle and really having to lean on the team this year. And there's some people who've been reporting he felt he was not appreciated when they brought in Nick Boyd, and Nick Boyd kind of took over the team. So we'll see what happens there, but it does seem like most people around here think Blackwell will be gone. So and I think it sounds like most people think Winter will be back. So I guess as of right now, I don't know if the program is, but it seems people covering the team are operating under 3 roster spots need to be filled right now.
Man, and I guess, do you have the confidence? Look at the last couple of years where they were able to bring in Nick Boyd and John Tonje and such, that Greg Gard's going to be able to find maybe some more backcourt help for this ball club?
Oh, absolutely. Anybody who likes shooting the 3 and connects on 30 some odd plus, why wouldn't you take a look at Wisconsin and see what they're doing? You had a couple of guys there. The last 3 they brought in have all had their best statistical seasons while at Wisconsin. One of them had eligibility left and decided to just not go to the NBA, I guess. The other 2 are kind of set themselves up to be draft picks and hopefully end up on an NBA full-time roster rather than a 2-way contract or anything like that. But especially one who, like Nick Boyd, who had the season he did and wasn't even in contention for All-American or anything like that, or even All Big Ten, really. I would say from here on out in transfer portal, Wisconsin might be starting to be a destination people want to start looking at. So, you definitely have to give Greg Gard the benefit of the doubt when the transfer portal opens.
Mm-hmm. Right, no doubt about it. So, before I let you go, anything else happening down in Badgerland that us up northerners should know or be aware of? Not that I've really delved into yet, because softball is just kind of starting, so really haven't had a chance to look at that. Right now, a little bit of a dead period while I'm still just watching hockey. Right. Before I let you go, because, we're going to know the champ by the time, who do you got for the men's basketball national championship? If Michigan wins, I win a pool at the Badger Tavern here in Madison. So I really hoping Michigan wins. All right. So what do you got on the other side? You going to go all Big Ten final, or does it care? Do you matter with that? Well, if
Illinois beats UConn, that knocks out a good majority of the rest of the people who can score points. So I want an all Big Ten final, and if Michigan comes out on top, I'm not even sure what the pot is, but yeah, I'm sitting pretty right now because most of the people have UConn or Arizona winning. So as long as Michigan wins and Illinois wins, a lot of people are blocked out there, and then only 2 people in the pool, and I'm ahead of the other one in total points left. Only 2 people in the pool picked Michigan, so we'd finish 1 and 2, and I'd be on top. So crossing my fingers.
Well, I've got all my Final Four teams, but if it is Michigan and Illinois, I'm screwed because I had Arizona and UConn, so I'm the opposite way. But it is what it is. March Madness, man. So what do you got?
Yeah. I mean, I probably think Arizona's going to beat Michigan just because they look amazing. Mm-hmm. But for selfish purposes, I need an all Big Ten final with Michigan coming out on top.
That's what it's all about, though, right? That's what it's
right?
all selfish.
Yeah.
So
makes up for every bracket I entered this year.
There you go. RJ, appreciate it as always, buddy. Enjoy the rest of the week, man. And next week we'll chat some hockey with you. Okay.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you then.
You got it. There you go. There's RJ Cardinal joining us here this morning. We got to take a quick break, but we'll be back with plenty more. We'll get back to some more Brewers chats and all that good stuff coming up after these quick words. As the fields come back to life, it's time for spring sports here in the Chippewa Valley. Whether you're stepping up to the plate or hitting the track or getting back on the field, make sure that your body is ready to perform. At Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, their team specializes in keeping athletes of all ages healthy, strong, and in the game. From injury prevention to expert care and recovery, they've got you covered every step of the season. Don't let pain keep you on the sidelines. Get back in the game with confidence. Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, helping you move better, play stronger, and staying in the game. Bucks are back in action tonight. The Milwaukee Bucks are taking on the Dallas Mavericks tonight. So if you're still into hoops and Bucks season, got another game coming your way tonight. And might be a little bit of a generic confession, but since it is Tuesday and it is our sports confessions, forgive me, sports gods, for I have sinned. I put all my faith and trust in that the Milwaukee Bucks this year were going to surpass expectations and surpass a lot of people's thoughts on how well the Bucks were going to do. And I sinned. I was wrong. Please forgive me for spreading that message that I think the Bucks can surprise people this year. I was completely wrong. I was completely off. So please, to the sports gods out there, forgive me, because wow, were we completely off base? Was I completely off base on that one? Completely wrong, man. It's just it. I know there's a lot of other stuff going on right now, sports wise, and Bucks are like in the rear view mirror for a lot of people. And given with everything going on, if they were in the playoffs and Giannis was healthy and such, it'd be different. But we're going to look back at this season with a lot of, depending on how this offseason goes. Let me take a step back and say, depending on how this upcoming offseason goes, we are really going to look at the 2025-26 Bucks season as a potential turning point, pivotal point in Milwaukee Bucks history. Again, depending on what happens. If Giannis re-ups, signs, then okay, maybe it's a blip on the radar, a speck on the spectrum. And it's just, we'll hopefully forget about this season. But if he moves on, if he gets traded and such, we're going to look at that 2025 offseason and the 2025-26 season as that turning point for the Milwaukee Bucks franchise, and maybe not in a good way either. But yeah, tip time for tonight's game. for the Bucks as we start to wrap up this regular season is going to be at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock with the Mavericks coming to town. And then they got the Rockets tomorrow. And then the Celtics on Friday. So, right? Man. Looking at the standings, if you're wondering about better odds for that ping pong ball, they are up a half a game over the Bulls right now. They can't get any worse than Brooklyn or Washington or Indiana. They potentially could against Memphis and New Orleans. Memphis is at 25-50. New Orleans is at 25-51. Dallas is at 24-51. Bucks 29-45. Chicago 29-46. So that's where things are currently at in the race for a better draft pick. So, okay, we do have to play a little catch up. So I do have to play one more break here, but send me your Toys & Fords Grind My Gears Tuesday, your other sports confessions, your I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. I've done my I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. I've done my confessions. I've got my Grind My Gears coming up in the next hour. So, but I want more of yours. All right? Send them on over. It's all about a Feel Better Tuesday. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll wrap up the third quarter of the third hour coming up after these quick words. Baseball is back, and that means one thing. It's also brat season, baby. Swing on into Mike's Star Market and stock up for game day the right way. From a fresh and wide variety of flavorful brats to everything you need to fire up the grill and feed the whole crew. Whether you're tailgating, backyard grilling, or maybe just catching the game at home, nothing says baseball like brats on the grill. Make every pitch, every inning, and every bite count. Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire, your home for brat season. Well, it looks like the Brewers aren't the only ones that are locking up some younger players who have yet to make their major league debuts. The Mariners have reportedly come to an 8-year agreement with Colt Emerson. The deal guarantees Emerson $95 million and includes a club option for the 9th season. The guarantee is a record for a player who has not yet made his major league debut. The deal also includes no trade clause and can max out to $130 million after incentives. So that's just kind of popping up here this morning. So Brewers did it with Jackson a couple years ago. They just did it with Cooper Pratt, and now Emerson. Part of me, and this would be a better question for people more intelligent in this area than I am in that, but with the potential of a work stoppage and with the potential of a completely different kind of collective bargaining agreement between the players union and Major League Baseball, are we going to see a few more of these deals get done with teams and younger prospects where younger prospects who don't have any experience or maybe have a little bit of experience at the Major League level? So that to me is, I'm kind of fascinated and curious to see if there's going to be more of these coming down the wire here. Are we going to see more teams, trying to maybe save some money? Is this going to be a trend outside of like the consistent high spenders of the Yankees, of the Dodgers, of the Mets, where they're going to be more risky, but hoping to also kind of get bargain deals? And then are we going to get to a point where maybe some of those highly touted prospects say, no, I'm going to bet on myself? It's a risk, right? Do you take the guaranteed money now, or do you take the risk? Are we going to see any of those players eventually say, I'm willing to wait a couple of years, or willing to wait a few years? I'm curious to see if more teams get on this. I don't know if I'd call it a trend right now, but yeah, we've got a couple of examples now, a couple more examples of teams investing on some unproven talent. It almost is kind of reminding me of not completely, but like the NFL draft. The first round picks the boatload of cash they would sign without even playing a down in the NFL. You know, like the Jamarcus Russells and such, getting just a boatload of cash, and that didn't work. So not a great example, but similar in the aspect of these teams are, you know, and at least these teams are getting in their prospects into their systems, and they've seen a little bit and the potential there. You know, back then in the NFL, you were drafting a rookie and you didn't even have him in your building yet, maybe for one interview and such, but still. Yeah, I'm curious to see if we get more of this coming down the pipeline. So, speaking of Brewers and baseball, we'll talk some more Brewers and baseball coming up in the final quarter. Brandon Woodruff, what are your expectations? What do you want to see from Woodruff this year outside of being healthy? Performance-wise, what's going to make you say, I'm good with that when it comes to Brandon Woodruff? I'm good with that. All right, let's talk about that coming up in the next hour, and we'll talk more about the Cooper Pratt signing as well. Quick break, and we'll be right back.